where young people are forced to leave East Baton Rouge Parish because they've had to choose between home and opportunity other places. I'm raising a 7-year-old daughter in this community and a 16-year-old bonus daughter. That's an unfair proposition for my child, and it's an unfair proposition for each and every one of you. I am in this race because 8 years is long enough to know if things are going well. It's time for a new vision. It's time for a new leader. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. James, thanks very much. Let's get it going here. Our first question tonight, we're going to start with you, Mayor Broome. Baton Rouge has been losing young professionals for more than a decade. That's according to census data. Knowing that quality of life is a significant driver for talent retention and attraction, what steps will you take to retain and attract the age group of 25 to 45?
Well, we certainly know that talent retention has a lot to do with quality of place and quality of life issues, as you said. So I know that our young professionals want to be in a thriving environment, that they're attracted to bike paths and different forms of transportation modality. And so my vision is to create a riverfront development that will serve for talent retention, but it will also serve as economic development for our entire city and parish. We're going to start at Southern University, at the bluffs of Southern University. Then we're going to go and develop our downtown riverfront. Then we'll take it all the way out, almost to the quarter of LSU, where we have city parish property that we will develop. And in fact, I'd like for our young people to be a part of all the placemaking that takes place in that process.
Mayor, thank you. We're going to go to Mr. Edwards.
Well, I think first off, one of the things I opened up with is keeping young people here and young professionals here. We've got to clean up the city. The city's not attractive. It's dirty out there. Weeds and grass is growing everywhere. And then again, the crime issue. It's just not a beautiful place. This is the capital city of Louisiana. And I think those things have to happen first, taking care of the crime and homelessness and the blight in our city. And besides that, young people who want to raise a family here, we got a lot of work to do at the school system. We're blessed to have a tremendous new superintendent in East Baton Rouge Parish, Lamont Cole, who's going to help us with our schools. But there's a lot of the education piece that has to be fixed that these young people are looking at. Because the alternative, which is hardly an alternative for some people, is very expensive private education. But my thing is we have to make it attractive. There's a reason they're leaving, and we need to make it attractive.
Thank you, sir. Mr. James?
Yeah, our young people are leaving East Baton Rouge Parish in great numbers because we haven't invested in the young people that we receive every year at LSU and Southern. We have the flagship university and the only HBCU system in the world. We don't have an economic development department in city parish government. We have to start recruiting industries that those young people want to work for. We also have to address the quality of life issues, crime, blight, and litter. Young people don't want to drive through pothole-filled streets. Young people don't want to go through communities where the grass is taller than they are. Young people want to actually go into a community that accentuates its assets, like downtown on a river. LSU and Southern, the SU master plan, the unity agenda that was signed back when LSU and Southern played football. The city parish has to be a stronger partner with both of our universities so that our young people know that we're going to invest in them, not just during their matriculation here, but once they graduate.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Myers.
Yes, in the years that I've been here, I've seen the slick brochures and the plans and the vision. It's a question you get asked a lot. What's the vision? My vision for Baton Rouge for quality of life and migration is to rescue the city from and get back to at least the first few years, the core issues that make quality of life. Driving down the interstate and being fearful of getting shot through the window of the car next door is not suitable for quality of life. I use a acronym, I guess, called FamChat Blogger to remember the issues, and I'll get into those. But the number one issue is crime. The number two issue is crime, and number three is crime. We have to rebuild the foundation of the things government's supposed to do before government goes into building buildings and developments that should be left to the private sector.
Our second question starts with Mr. Edwards. East Baton Rouge has 5 independent cities. How will you ensure effective and efficient public services throughout the entire parish? You have 1 minute.
Well, with 5, I mean, I'm sure that's a difficult task, but the thing is, there's a lot of talk about being equal, equality, and being fair. I think you have to be fair. Certainly, our newest is St. George, and working with those folks and making sure they get off to a good start. It's just, here again, not an easy task, but it's working collaboratively with those mayors. That, each of those areas have mayors, and it's sitting down, and it's what's best for the whole parish. You can't, I don't think anyone in this seat can, it's almost like 5 children. I mean, you cannot pick, hey, all our resources and everything's going to go here. So I think it's building a team. I'm a unifier. I build teams, and I think that's the first thing right off the jump street is some trust and camaraderie and putting that team together.
All right, Mr. Edwards, thank you. Next, we will hear from Mr. James.
Yes. Working with all 5 municipalities is something that I've already done as a legislator. I have a history of working with diverse groups to not just talk about issues but solve them. I will start by very early in administration calling all mayors to the table to talk about the creation of an East Baton Rouge Parish agenda that we can tackle together in our legislature. Way too often I've watched year after year as New Orleans and other communities have come to our capital and our city unified, and they take our resources to correct their problems. That ends once I'm elected because we will work collaboratively with the council as well to establish an agenda. Budget priorities, we have to make sure that we aren't continuing this us versus them mentality. Some folks think that it's a hindrance that we have 5 cities. I see it as a great strength, and that strength is something that I'm going to work extremely hard to harness, and you all will see results when we have an East Baton Rouge Parish agenda at our state capitol.
All right, Mr. James, thank you for that. Next, Mr. Myers, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I have kind of a pet issue in this campaign, and as a lawyer who likes government and so forth, I really believe we need to take a look at the consolidated form of government, the original 1947 home charter with changes. This war with St. George has to stop, number one. Half of this campaign is about that war, not about quality of life for the regular people who have to dodge potholes and so forth. But if we had a mayor of City of Baton Rouge and a president of the parish, the duties would be different. It's going to take some work, but the big picture could be looked at by the president of the parish, like the other parishes with the exception of 1 or 2, but even Lafayette found it wasn't the greatest when it came to, and then we have a Baton Rouge mayor. It doesn't hurt to challenge your beliefs. You either reevaluate them and come back with a stronger belief of what you have, or you change a faulty belief.
Mr. Myers, thank you. Mayor Broome.
Well, as the parish president for the past 8 years, I have collaborated with the mayors of Zachary, Central, Baker, and now St. George. For the past 8 years, each one of the cities has come to the table with me, and we've talked about their priorities. And even as late as today, you may have seen a press release that talks about the ARPA funding that we received and how that ARPA funds, those ARPA funds, were spread throughout the 4 cities, now 5 cities that I just named, including fire trucks for many of these cities, police cars for Zachary, and the list goes on and on. So I think if you were to talk to any of the mayors of those cities, they will tell you that Sharon Weston Broome is a collaborator and she delivers for our city.
Mayor Broome, thank you.
Okay, let's shift to the future of Baton Rouge. Mr. James, we're going to start with you. Violent crime has trended down nationwide. Even New Orleans has cut homicides by about 50% this year compared to 2022. Baton Rouge simply has not. According to crime trend analysis from the Baton Rouge Police Department, homicides are up 22% year to year. 2024 is now on pace to be in the top 5 of the deadliest years on record here in Baton Rouge. 73 homicides so far this year, and I think we can all agree that's a far cry from where we were 10 and even 20 years ago. What is your plan to address this and ensure the safety of our community? And realistically, what can a mayor do?
You mentioned the stats, and they're startling. The first thing is, Mayor President, we have to admit that we have a violent crime problem in this community. We can't solve it unless and until we're ready to admit it. We do. We get back to multi-agency task force and specialized units. We don't disband them. We give our law enforcement professionals the tools to keep us all safe. We break down the silos and we bring those organizations to the table to collaborate on technology, to collaborate with intelligence, and to make sure that we have joint training opportunities. We also can't ignore those things that we know drive crime. We need to eliminate blight in this community. We need to make sure that our young people are waiting lists and in quality early childhood seats. Young people that get quality early childhood education are 20% less likely to have an experience with the criminal legal system. As a past chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee, I've worked with law enforcement professionals all across this state, and I intend to do that once elected as Mayor President.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Myers?
Yes, obviously crime is the key issue, but the police need to have all of the resources they need. I mean, I have specific plans that can't be gone into tonight, but I mean, we need our police force. When the city of Gonzales has police paid more than the city of Baton Rouge, something is amiss. We need to get them up to not only averages of it nationally, but we need to get them up and well paid. The fact is, I read somewhere that we try to figure out the causes of crime. That's not a surprise. There's one cause of crime. Nobody wants to hear it, but it's sin, S-I-N. If you're driving down the street and you throw a bag of trash out of the window, nobody can stop that. That's the citizen that needs to participate and have some pride in their city as well. And somehow we need people to understand that if we're going to be a city that people are proud of, you're not going to necessarily do it solely by force, although when needed, the force needs to be used.
Mr. Myers, thank you. Mayor Broom.
Crime is indeed an issue that is taking place all over America. It's not an anomaly here in Baton Rouge. But yes, we have to address crime, and yes, we put tools in place to do just that. I've given our police officers a 13% raise. Under my administration, we have the Real-Time Crime Center, and I invite our citizens to come and see how that works as a deterrent towards crime. But we can't police our way out of crime, and I think everyone will share that with you. So we have law enforcement on one hand, and then we have community programs and initiatives on the other hand. Our Safe, Hopeful, Healthy initiative has proven to be effective. When we go into those areas that have high crime, stay in there for our Summer of Hope program, the data shows us that the crime goes down. But I think we can't ignore the fact that Baton Rouge has an 18.5% poverty rate. That's an issue.
Mayor Broom, thank you. Mr. Edwards.
I don't believe you could police your way out of crime. But our police force is an issue. We're shorthanded. Those guys are working their tails off. We're 75 to 100 officers short. So right off the bat, I'm going to get 100 new officers. And we're going to pay them. And we're going to pay them like they need to be paid. Public safety, again, is at the top of my list. Read a publication the other day. Out of 149 major cities, we're ranked 149 in least safe. If I had that record as a football coach, you already know where I'd be. That is a huge issue. And then the biggest thing is, where I'm at now, the hope and the despair of these people. Why are they committing crimes? Why are they out there doing things maybe they shouldn't be doing? When you peel back the curtain on parts of Baton Rouge that a lot of Baton Rouge don't see, it's horrifying. The destruction of the family plays a major role as well. Help all the way around is what's needed.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. On now to our fourth question, and we will start with Mr. Myers. What is your 20-year vision for Baton Rouge, and how will you use your time as mayor to set the foundation for achieving that vision? And we want you to be specific with this. What initiatives or policies will you implement to ensure a lasting positive change for our city's future?
I'd say, could you repeat the question, but I don't know if I want to give up my time for that. First, I want to be here in 20 years. Second of all, once again, I go back to the overall quality of life issues. Blight, litter, migration, St. George, garbage pickup, education, roads, traffic, homeless, affordable housing, flooding. All of these things are on my agenda, but I'm a short-term and a long-term goal person. Vision, there's no vision that people perish, but we want to compare ourselves to Austin and Charlotte. We need to compare ourselves to Madison, Wisconsin. Very similar, university, capital, and the reality is they had 50 murders there over 10 years, 2000, 2009, 5 in a year. What's different about Madison than Baton Rouge? Maybe we need to look at them and put in some of the programs they actually have.
All right, Mr. Myers, thank you for that. Next, Mayor Broom.
You know, I think that one of our challenges is that we don't embrace the uniqueness of Baton Rouge as a community. And so my 20-year vision would include the fact that we accelerate and accentuate what Baton Rouge really is, that we elevate the fact that we have great culture here, that we have great food, that we have great people here, that we have two universities here. And so even beyond that, you've heard me talk about the riverfront development. Next, right now, we're working on the River Center development so that we can have a first-class hotel conference center. You may have heard about work that's going to be taking place at Memorial Stadium. All of these are transformative projects. They won't happen in the next 4 years, but they will be launched, and I believe they will take us into a very bright future.
Mayor Broom, thank you. Next up, we will hear from Mr. Edwards, and if you could be specific with your initiatives or policies that you'd like to implement.
So in 20 years, you know, my vision for the parish is simply a vibrant city on the hill, a mecca where education system is second to none, a clean city, infrastructure where everything flows smoothly. You know, you're never going to eradicate crime completely, but a safe city. My vision is a city, instead of the young people moving out, people are by the droves trying to get in this place. And that's what my vision for what I want to see. That's the way a city should be. There are places like that in our country. It's not us right now. Now, to answer the other part of the question, well, what are the initiatives? What would you do? Well, then I spoke on that in the front, in the platform. So I look at it, when you say 20 years, I see 4 quarters of football. 5 years, 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. And I think before we do anything, you can't put the cart before the horse. We got to fix what's right in front of us right now.
Thank you, sir. Mr. James.
You know, the Milken Institute that rates cities on economic development, sustainability, and job growth ranked us at a 22 in 2015. Today we rank 155. A city in 20 years has to be at the front of that list, not at the back. How we do that. Today we live in a parish that doesn't have a single person working on economic development. We don't have a relationship with any of our economic development partners. Very early on, we established that. We hire someone in the mayor's office that has a strong background in economic development. Number 2, we continue to make those needed investments in downtown. I envision in 20 years that the chamber, you all won't have to go and canvass other cities. You'll be welcoming your partners who are canvassing here in East Baton Rouge Parish. In 20 years, when you look at our young people in terms of kindergarten readiness, we will send Lamont Cole, or whomever the superintendent is, more young people who are kindergarten ready because we've taken them off waiting lists and we put them in quality early childhood seats, and we have a real development plan that eradicates blight in our community. That's the thriving Baton Rouge that I want to see, and the thriving Baton Rouge that you deserve.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, for this next round of questions, we have picked specific topics we'd like for each of you to address. Mr. James, we're going to start with you. The Metro Council is considering a budget proposal that could cut city services by 10 to 20%. Considering the Department of Public Works and other city parish departments have been understaffed, if you come into office in that budget situation, what will you do to recruit, retain, and support a fully staffed city parish workforce?
Yeah, once elected, we have to recognize that I'll be walking into a huge budget fiasco, recognizing that we're losing a huge chunk of our budget through the new city of St. George. When I talk about that East Baton Rouge Parish agenda, that means we'll be working collaboratively with our legislators to bring more resources in. It means that we're going to look at every single contract, we're going to audit every single program, Healthy BR, safe, hopeful, healthy, and eliminate all of the contracts that we no longer need. If we don't need it, we won't be doing it under James administration. That will help us save funding. We also have to make sure in terms of DPW that we partner with the young people at Southern University. We partner with the young people at LSU, not once they graduate. We need to invest in them in their freshman and sophomore years to provide the training opportunities and the pathway to work within DPW while we're addressing our budget challenges in concert with the council and our legislators.
All right, Mr. James, thank you for that. Now to Mr. Edwards. Given your lack of experience in government, you have said you plan to build a team of experts to guide your administration. Give us specifics, sir, on who your primary advisors are, and then what criteria you will use to select them.
Well, as far as exactly who they are, I'm not going to talk about that tonight. But I will say this, that it's very similar to building, my football team. I have an OC, a defensive coordinator, a special team guy, a weight room guy, and it's no different in building your staff, in the city government. This is not rocket science. I will start with a department. When I build, the department I'm going to start with is the Department of Common Sense, which is often missing in municipalities across the state. So to me, it's my thing is and I've done it my whole career, I am going to put the brightest, most brilliant people in the right seats on the bus, and we're going to give them autonomy, and we're going to go say, go save Baton Rouge. That's the whole thing about it. And here again, surround yourself with the best. And that, here again, that is how I have built all my teams, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Just one little follow-up with that, if you don't mind. You're saying the brightest and the best. Does that mean people who have the experience, sir, to do the job?
Well, I guess on that end there, sure, experience, would be better, but not necessarily have to.
All right. Thank you for that. All right, now to Mayor Broome. The city parish has returned millions of unspent dollars to the federal and state government since you took office. Considering the issues with blight, affordable housing, unemployment, and early education, why wasn't that money spent? And how will you ensure that these types of funds are used effectively going forward?
I'm so glad you asked that question tonight, because now we can bring some clarity to the issue. Any funds that were returned happened because they were unspent by the prior administration. We have not been returning federal dollars. In fact, we have maximized federal dollars almost across the board, especially in the work that we're doing with our transportation and roads project. We have federal dollars almost to, I think they're sharing $100 million that we're using for our roads and transportation. So I assure you that as the Mayor President, we have maximized every dollar and put it to work for the citizens of this city and parish. And I also always encourage, look on our website to open checkbook. You can see where every dollar is spent.
I should have asked this earlier, so Mayor Broome, I'm going to stick with you here for just a second. I'm going to go back to a question we asked Mr. James, the Metro Council question about considering a budget proposal that could cut city services by 10 to 20%. What will you do to recruit, retain, and support a fully staffed city parish workforce?
Well, because I'm in the middle of those negotiations right now, I'm at the table, I'm working on the budget, I'm negotiating with St. George. I assure you that my first priority, which I've shared with all of our employees, is employee retention. So what does that mean? That means that we're looking at our budget very intentionally so we can indeed maintain and retain our city parish employees. Secondly, the goal is to make sure that we do not have elevated taxes because of a new city. I am working to make sure that we have our continuation of basic services and that we have a minimal impact in our budget and our delivery of services. Our budget will be out real soon, and you can see what that looks like.
I know we're waiting till later to do the where you raise your hand portion of this, but show of hands, who thinks that there will be new taxes needed in the city of Baton Rouge? Like a new, you understand what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
Okay. With St. George, you just mentioned trying to prevent new taxes for, I assume, property owners living within the city limits of Baton Rouge.
All over the parish.
All of the parish.
That's my goal, is to make sure that we maintain our level of services all over the parish.
I will tell you that it's no secret that at the end of this transition period, we're going to lose significant tax revenue as a parish. I want to explore every opportunity before asking you, the voters, to pay more. When I talk about budget priorities, every single contract, we're going to audit every single contract. There are things that we're paying for that we no longer need. We are funding vacant positions that haven't been filled in years. You use those dollars to try to minimize the hurt in the budget from losing the tax revenue in St. George. When I talk about going to the legislature, many of you in this audience and those watching at home, you watch other communities aggressively go to the Capitol to pull resources to pay for the issues, especially those long-term systemic issues. I want to exhaust all of those opportunities before asking the citizens of this parish, Baton Rouge, Baker, Zachary, Central, and yes, my friends in St. George that are new to this parish, we do not want you all to pay more taxes. Budget priorities, eliminate waste, and fund the things that need to be funded in this parish.
Mayor Broome, you look like you have some to say.
Make no mistake about it. I did not say that we were planning on elevating taxes. When you're the mayor president, when you're the CEO and the leader, you understand how to approach the budget. You understand where you can make cuts so that you won't have a drastic impact on the city and parish. I am at the table right now working on our budget. Our first priority will be to retain and maintain our city parish employees and to continue the delivery of services to everyone in the city and parish.
Okay. Mayor Broome, thank you. Mr. Myers, we're going to turn to you next. You've run for multiple public offices in the past. For mayor in 2012, the Metro Council in 2020, both of those as an independent, state rep in 2023 as a Democrat, and now as a Republican. Why do you believe the mayor's office is the most suitable role for you now, and why should voters support you in this race?
Well, I think because of the way I look at the job as an administrative job partly, but we need a sure foundation. We're on sandy, rocky ground right now, and we need to get those issues resolved before we start talking about more visionary plans. The fact that I've run in different parties and so forth, I take that as a compliment. That means I'm not an ideologue. I'd apply Chesterton's fence principle to everything that we do, challenge everything, determine why do we do it in the first place, why doesn't it need to be changed. I get into races if somebody doesn't have an opponent, because many people don't pay attention to the elections until there is an election, to the issues until there is an election. So if someone doesn't have an opponent, it's only $450 to sign up. Everybody should do it. It's a great experience. You get out, you meet people, you see how other people live. But the reality is, I think I can get in there and work with everyone. Teamwork is partly what we need, along with some changes to the point where we can kind of work together for the future.
Let's get back to Mr. James. Governor Landry recently undid many criminal justice reforms that were passed while you were in the legislature. So how will you navigate these significant policy differences to ensure that we can address crime and remain fair?
Yes, and many of those initiatives that we worked in a bipartisan fashion to pass will have significant issues on our budget. Today in East Baton Rouge Parish, we spend millions housing inmates outside of this parish, and we're probably going to spend more with the changes from the legislature. Again, prioritizing our budget, eliminating those things that we aren't doing well, working extremely collaboratively with the sheriff of this parish as the chief law enforcement agency. We have to start having an elevated conversation about our new parish prison, our new juvenile facility. Those things need to be embedded in training and rehabilitation opportunities so that we minimize the opportunities for young people to continue to go into our criminal legal system. Jobs, jobs, jobs. When I talk about the fact that we don't have anyone leading economic development in this parish today, we need that because those folks that are working are not folks that are going to be breaking in our cars. Jobs, 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 eliminate blight, and protect early childhood. That's how we work against those criminal justice reforms that have been repealed.
Mr. James, thank you. Mr. Edwards, going to turn to you. Your platform kind of highlights a commitment to eliminating traffic gridlock. That is certainly, I think we can all agree, a very tall task here in Baton Rouge. How would you fight for the new Mississippi River Bridge, the I-10 widening, and the potential airline highway bump projects? And with the Move BR funding, how would you prioritize local road projects?
We got to shut the old Washington Street exit right off that. That bottleneck over there is terrible. And just looking at it, you know, everything from what you're speaking of, the widening of Airline Highway, I believe from the old, what I call the old Mississippi River Bridge, you know, all the way down. And I mean, there's gridlocks for a bajillion reasons, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, you've got a lot more folks on the roads in Baton Rouge. Now, there's big fixes, and of course, if you're going to go with the big fixes, that's a situation that includes federal and state dollars, because a lot of the major arteries, of course, you know, will go under that guise. But there's Band-Aids that could be fixed, and I don't want to, you know, marginalize it, but something as simple, and when I hired those 100 new officers, just like at LSU games, just a Band-Aid, picture them being at major intersections, not till the end of time, but to get traffic moving.
Let's get back to this just real quick. How would you prioritize just the local road projects? Do you have a plan for that?
Well, I think that Washington Street exit is a problem, and the widening of you know, Airline Highway from that bridge.
But those are going to be more of like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, those would be more of state projects. I'm talking about like surface streets and whatnot.
Well, I mean, one thing I've looked at is not inter-city, inter-expressways. You know, there's a lot of roads, a lot of folks that are traveling, even citizens of Baton Rouge don't realize, we got straightaways, and those places might have several names. For example, if you look out in the central area, you know, you've got Sullivan Road, which turns into the Central Thruway, which turns into O'Neill Lane, which turns into, and name it some expressways. I also believe this too. I think we have too many traffic lights. The removal of some lights, along with the synchronization that I know the city's been trying to work on that as well. Those are two things locally that need to be studied that I think could help in a big way.
Mayor Broome, the concept of deconsolidating parish government has gained support in some political circles. How do you believe deconsolidation would impact the city, and are you in favor of separating the city of Baton Rouge from the broader parish system?
There have been a lot of conversations that have taken place on that, especially recently. I will tell you, before I could make a definitive answer on deconsolidation, we have to look at the merits of having a consolidated form of government, and there are some merits of having that. At the same time, I would do an evaluation, an assessment, certainly get input from our people, but look at our data. Would this make us a better city and parish if we did deconsolidate? These are questions that have to be looked at before we make a serious decision like that. I know we've had that happen in some of our surrounding cities, but I don't know what the data is showing in terms of the positive impact that has had.
Our last question of the round is for Mr. Myers. During your 2023 judicial campaign, you advocated for an increase in funding for juvenile justice. Considering the pressing issue of juvenile crime in Baton Rouge, how would you work to address the funding for these problems as well as reduce juvenile crime? And we're looking for specifics.
Specifics are hard in a minute, but I do have some people who are quite familiar with the juvenile justice system. I think a lot of times the rules look good on paper if they're carried out and they're effective. So my administration that's going to be focused on accountability and competence might be all that's needed. These are complicated issues. You know, you got parents that are absent, you got juveniles running loose, you can't put them in prison, you move them from the prisons. These are problems. And that's why I think that maybe we should take a breather from big development projects that will benefit mostly, you know, developers and probably wealthy people, and look at the rest of us, so to speak, and determine whether we can get this thing, this foundation, stronger. We got to take care of crime first. We'll have a great quality of life when people feel like they're safe to stop at the gas station at night. or to not get accosted at a traffic signal. I'm sorry I can't answer the question in the short amount of time, but the point is that at that point we had lots of videos and other things to be able to explain the depth of that question.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
All right, we have picked a question submitted by audience members. Each candidate, you're going to have 1 minute to answer each of these questions.
So let's start with Mr. Edwards. Thriving downtown towns are seen as ways to attract and retain residents. What is your vision for downtown Baton Rouge 10 years from now, sir? Specifics.
Well, when you're looking at, a lot's been done downtown, but at the same point, I know I keep going back to my same platform, you know, of you have to fix what's right in front of us at the moment, you know, so I'm not going to go all the way. I mean, if I could dream and I have a great vision, certainly the new arena, you know, out that way. Coming up with more restaurants, more bars, more entertainment, more things for young people to do during the day and adults to do at night. And here again, that could be an attractive area if we have taken care of the crime and the homelessness and the blight and everything else, you know, that goes along with that makes a downtown not thrive. But just like anyone else, I'll look at it and I see the hotels and I see all the entertainment that can be down there. So yes, development of that. But here again, I can't put that in the forefront of what I'm running on.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. James, same question.
Can you repeat the question?
So we're asking about what's your vision for downtown and how do you implement that?
In the next 10 years.
Next 10 years. A safe downtown, a downtown that's well lit, a downtown that we eradicate of more of our homeless population outside. My law office is in downtown. I spend a lot of time. There are more homeless individuals at Starbucks than folks going in to buy coffee. And we have to get aggressive about tackling homelessness in downtown. We have to ensure that we are pouring into our small business ecosystem. There are downtowns that I've traveled to across the country at SBA. We have incubator space for entrepreneurs where they are sharing and innovative ideas. We have to make sure that we are investing in those that want to move downtown by giving them the necessary capital, because the price to move your business to downtown is extremely high. I think we work with the owners of the buildings downtown to make sure that we're having more short-term rentals for those entrepreneurs. We also have to make sure that we bring in the activity and pour into the arts and the culture here in East Baton Rouge Parish. Parking. It's hard to park downtown. Right, a boot ordinance. New Orleans has a boot ordinance. We need to work with the council to ensure that we have a boot ordinance so it's not a hindrance for people that want to go downtown.
Mr. James, thank you. Mr. Myers?
Once again, if it's a good idea economically, the private sector can do it. I really have a problem with government's federal, state, continual encroachment, if you will, on the free market. People will move downtown. People will go downtown if they don't feel like they might get held up on the corner, or their security or parking or whatever it may be that are the foundational issues that make for a high quality of life. Plus, we're in a different world now. People don't come out to events as much anymore. And just having a new trendy business is not necessarily going to bring thousands of people down. We might need to re-examine, as Chesterton, the fence as far as our tax structure. Maybe sales tax is not the way to finance cities. Maybe we have to suck it up and look at property tax. And this would kill me. But the point is, right is right even if no one's doing it. Wrong is wrong even if everyone's doing it. We need to reevaluate where we are as a city and be ourselves, not somebody else.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Broom, same question.
Plan Baton Rouge was the foundation of our downtown development. It started to ignite. And now we see that downtown is offering initiatives like Live After 5, where you have families coming out on a Friday afternoon. just 2 weeks ago, we had a major concert where 4,600 people came and participated, and no incidents, just fun. And we also have greenways that are taking place downtown. In the next 10 years, we'll see more bike paths. We'll see more of a walkable community. We'll see that hotel conference center in the next 10 years. But think about 10 years ago and right now. Look at all of the residents, the people who have moved, who have chosen to move downtown because they see the potential of what's going to take place in the next 10 years and what's happening right now.
All right, Mayor Broome, thank you. Next, we're going to ask a series of questions. You'll just need to indicate if you support or oppose these statements.
All right, so we'll ask you to raise your cards, as he just said, if you support it. First, please indicate your support for the development of a new parish jail and juvenile detention facility in the parish. Do you support it or oppose it?
Real quick, before we move on, let's stick with this for a second. Everybody's in support. I kind of want to go down the line and ask how you plan to fund this.
Well, that's the good question. I was going to ask you a question saying, what if you want to do this because you don't have a position on an issue, because you really need the details, okay? I'm for a city manager, but not necessarily under circumstances. So how are we going to support it? That's the issue. I'm big. Every year I do what Jimmy Carter called zero-based budgeting for my own business, but you were able to move funds from one to another. If I need roofs or air conditions, I can change funds from here to there. How do you fund? You got to look at the source of revenue. You can't always go back to people who can't pay the rent now, who can't pay their bills now, and say, we need more for this jail. I mean, if we're going to build an arena, maybe we ought to lock them up in the Assembly Center or the Centraplex, if that's going to be put out. Seriously, I mean, I'm being joking in a way, but the problem is that we need a little more thinking than just these ideas.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Broome, with a new parish jail and detention facility, how would you go about paying for that? 30 seconds.
Well, everyone knows that we would have to have a revenue stream. We have the Bridge Center, which was done collaboratively with the community because we recognize the challenges of mental health, and now we have a mental health stabilization center. There are a lot of different initiatives that people want to see happen in our city and in our community. I think we have to sit down, prioritize, and see what type of mechanism we are willing to support to make these initiatives happen.
Mr. Edwards?
I mean, you certainly would have to look at some state help, you know, and here again, the budget, you know, a budget couldn't build a jail like a jail should be built. What's needed inside, it's just not, you know, putting up bars. This facility would have to take care of the mental well-being of the prisoners, educational, giving those people an educational piece and everything else, very expensive. So I would look at state help as well.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I've had conversations with our sheriff on this very topic. And of course, budget priorities within city parish government, tighten our belt. I talk a lot about an East Baton Rouge parish agenda. That means going to the legislatures and fighting for the capital outlay dollars that other communities pull from our capital every year. I also talk about pulling in a federal grants coordinator to make sure that we're aggressively going after federal resources. There are several different models out there. What I will not advance for and what I will not advocate for is a private prison model in this community, but not just funding it, the type of programming that needs to be in it to make sure that we're investing in rehabilitation.
Thank you, sir. The next statement, raise your card to show your support or your opposition for reforming civil service to ensure competitive hiring, maintaining control of pension costs, and increasing staff accountability.
Can you come back?
Repeat that question. That was very voluminous.
Yes. Raise your card to show your support or opposition for reforming civil service to ensure competitive hiring, maintaining control of pension costs, and increasing staff accountability.
Okay, our last question. Do you support or oppose requesting the help of state police to help reduce violent crime? The superintendent of state police actually addressed this earlier this week. I think it was yesterday. This is similar to what has happened in New Orleans. Support or oppose state police coming into Baton Rouge to help with violent crime?
All right, so thank you for that. And we are at the very end now, coming to our closing statements, and we'd like you to share with us why you want to be mayor president.
Each candidate will have 90 seconds for these final remarks. We're going to start with you, Mr. Myers.
Thank you. Thanks to the Chamber for having this. I know sometimes I'm a grumpy old man, but I think we just really need to constantly re-examine and re-examine. As I said earlier, I read the footnotes. I'm worried about getting bogged down in details, but that's why a city manager would be important. But my focus on the administration would be a competent administration that provides the foundation for the free market to work, okay? And to try to get over these difficulties that we have between the cities. It's mostly St. George, and I know those people and love them as well. But I'm going to be a one-term mayor, and I'm not going to be worried about whether I get reelected, because I'm going to do what needs to be done, which is going to aggravate enough people that I probably wouldn't get reelected. But I would ask that the undecideds at this point take a chance. Look at Kamala Harris compared to where she was with Biden 4 weeks ago. In this day and age, those 30% of that people, you can decide this election if you get out and vote. 40% of the people don't vote. So bottom line is that I would get the qualified people to do their job, hold them accountable. And I believe 3 years from now, we're going to look back and say, wow, look at all the opportunities we now have because the foundation is solid.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Broome.
In just 26 days, the future of Baton Rouge will be in your hands. You've heard from the candidates tonight, but let's make one thing clear. All of the issues that we have discussed tonight, I have had a corresponding action to them as your mayor president. Let's be clear that of the candidates here, I have served on the Metro Council. I've been your mayor president, the only one with municipal experience. I've balanced budgets. I've dealt with some very tough issues, and I've navigated us through some very challenging times, from a flood recovery to a pandemic, and we have still come out strong. I will tell you that I have demonstrated courage because I have not succumbed to special interests, and those even involved in this race or wanting to control city parish government, to tell you the truth. I've demonstrated the backbone because I want to make sure that everyone in this city is included and has a seat at the table. You have seen me time and time again. I'm the same Sharon Weston Broome that you've seen over the years who have served you. I'm unbought, I'm unbossed, but I am here for the people. I humbly ask for your support for re-election.
Mr. Edwards.
I'm the different one up here. I am not a politician. I am a coach. I am a human being. It makes me different. Is Baton Rouge ready for real change? Because there's one candidate up here that represents real change, and that would be me. I'm going to ask all the people out there, do not think Republican, do not think Democrat. Is God Republican or Democrat? I don't know. Don't think black, don't think white, don't think Baptist, don't think Catholic. Vote for the person you think you could trust the most to save our capital city. My whole thing on this deal again is the key word would be change. Okay, what does change mean? It doesn't mean anyone who's been in office before has done a terrible job or anything. I know in my line of work, sometimes change is just good, and it's time. I am the change candidate for sure. My whole goal is to come in, work as hard as I can. I have a record of civil service here too. Although not a politician, I have a record, 44 years of saving lives, being a mediator, being a psychiatrist. My boots have been on the ground in the blue-collar world, helping to save these children and therefore help save the city. I'm asking for your vote, Baton Rouge, the whole parish, because I'm going to show Baton Rouge what it's like to win again.
You know, Baton Rouge, we have an awesome opportunity. We have an awesome opportunity to choose between the Baton Rouge that we live in today. All of the issues that we discuss have been age-old issues with the same leadership that hadn't solved them. I know that I'm asking you all to do something very different. It's been said that our government has been deeply divided by partisanship and gridlock. But Ted James has the ability to focus on effective results by focusing on bipartisan solutions. That was said by our mayor, and she was right. And that's why in this race, I've been endorsed by my party, the Democratic Party, and I have the support from Republicans that you all have selected. I am going to be the mayor for my hometown of Baton Rouge and the parish president for you in Baker, Zachary, Central, and St. George, because I have demonstrated the ability that although we've been separated, we do not have to be divided. And I am the only person on this stage. You see 4 candidates, you have 2 options. It's 4 years like the last 8, or it's a new vision for East Baton Rouge Parish by electing Edward Ted James, who you all know, who you all trust, who has the support across the aisle, across the city boundaries, and the ability, the most diverse experience on this stage to lead us to the Baton Rouge that we all deserve to live in. Now, we can wait, but you all deserve the Baton Rouge that you've been yearning for today, not in another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you all so very much for taking the time tonight. That concludes our mayoral forum.
Have a good evening. Good night.